Hey, how's it going? This is Rory from RateMyFuneral.com. That was Rate, by the way. I'm going to do a quick tutorial today about the coin flip video that I made after the realistic coin tutorial. Had a few people asking if I would show how I created that effect of the coin flipping up in the air towards the camera, so I thought, well, let's put it together quickly and show you what I did. Here you can see the video. The original video. This is what we're going to put together. It's really easy. The way I did it in this is actually slightly different to how we're going to do it today, because of the fact I didn't know this method existed back then. Let's continue on. So, assuming that you've already followed the coin tutorial, so you've created your realistic coin. I know it doesn't look very realistic there, but when you render that out, it's pretty good. I'm on the slow PC again, I should tell you. Right, let's see. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that the coin has dynamics. Again, this was covered in the other tutorial, but we'll just make sure it's got a rigid body tag. Most of the default settings are okay, but under collision we want to make sure that the shape is set to a moving mesh. Otherwise it acts as a square rather than as a cylinder. Friction of the bounce will probably be okay like that, and that's it for the minute. I've just pressed a button, I didn't mean to do that. Moving mesh, there we go. The first thing I want to do is make sure that it's sitting on the floor. Now you can sit and line it all up nice and neatly, just as a note that the floor has a collider tag on it, by the way. You can either try and line it up like that, you can place it into this mode and try and line it up there, but I just find the easiest way to do it is, now that we've got a dynamic simulation, we press play, it falls to the floor. That's it now sat on the floor. Go to the tag for the coin, select dynamics and do set initial state, and then you can rewind and it's now sat neatly on the floor. The next thing we're going to do is make the coin fly up into the air. Now, like I say, originally I actually built a little lever which I keyframed a movement to kind of kick the coin from underneath towards the camera, and it took a lot of trial and error and messing around, and it did actually take me a long time to do, but that's how I created that. I then found, literally about 10 minutes after posting the tutorial, I found this little tab down here that's in the tag of the rigid body, custom initial velocity. Now obviously that makes sense now that I read it. Here we can select what, the movement we want the coin to take as soon as the dynamics are enabled. So here, firstly, we want to, that's the x-axis, that's the y-axis, that's the z-axis. So we're going to start with the y-axis because we're going to send the coin upwards. It's along this green line here. So let's just make a guess at, say, 1,000, and just rewind, hit play. Cool, so that's the coin bouncing up into the air. We also want it to move across this red one, but I want it to come this way, so I'm going to do minus. So I would guess maybe minus 150. There we go. So that's now going over to the side. So that's excellent. I might just put that up just a little more. Minus 200. Rewind, just try that again. Yeah, that seems pretty groovy. Now obviously we want the coin spinning, so it's actually the last one here. I think it'll be minus 180. Should give us a completely clean flip, like that. There we go. It's a little too neat, so I'm just going to make that 183. Oh, sorry, minus 183, and give this one maybe 10, something like that. Yeah, maybe give that a little bit more. Let's say this was the one thing about doing it the way I did it before, was that it wasn't precise because it was being flicked by something else. That's what made it kind of look quite realistic. But there we go. With a bit of trial and error, you can get this looking pretty good. So now that we've got that, we need to position our camera. I've already got a camera created. I'm just going to move it so that it's looking down on the coin. I think probably about there. Oh, that's that middle mouse button, that problem I always have. So, put these frames down because we don't need that many, and I can then have it looping, so I can move the camera around. And let's make the lens of the camera an 80mm. There we go. Obviously, you might want the coin flipping higher. That's the beauty of it. You can just configure it to exactly as you want. Do you know what? In fact, I think I'm going to do that. Let's just really quickly make that 1,000, not that many, 500. I'm going to set the camera back to a 50mm. That's a bit better, although we do need a few more frames. Alright, let's get this camera positioned. Alright, so that's looking pretty groovy. That's very weird how that texture's doing that, because I've just noticed that that's in the preview that's showing as a £1 coin, but then in the render it's showing as a £2 coin. I don't get that. I'm not sure. That's something to do with my model, but we won't worry about that right now. It's not too important. So next thing we're going to do is just the slow motion bit. Now I have covered this before, but I will just quickly do it again. Press Control and D, and that gives you your project settings for the for your project. And then you can go to this Dynamics tab here, and you've got a few tabs in here. There's a couple of important things. I'll just point out this one. This one's always great. Is the steps per frame. By default, that's set to 5, and that will give you basically 5 calculations for every frame for the dynamics. Occasionally you'll get things that fall through floors and little boxes that intersect and stuff like that. If you start getting that, just put that up a little bit. 25 generally does it, makes things not fall through the floor so much. The other thing we want to now do is cache the dynamics so that it's guaranteed. So we'll just rewind to the beginning, we'll press bake, boom, there we go, that's now cached, so at any point there we've got our animation saved in. Now what I'm going to do is the slow motion bit. Now obviously this is going to need a little more time on the thing, so I'm just going to put that up to 200. Rewind and then find that point where we want the slow-mo to come in, so I'm going to go for about there. So maybe at frame 32 I shall set a keyframe on time scale. This is still in the project settings. Set a keyframe, you press Control and click on the dot, and then just move forward a few frames, and I'm going to set that down to 4, and Control click, and that gives you your keyframe. Now obviously because we've got it baked, it won't be showing anything yet, so we go back to cache, clear the cache, rewind it to the beginning and press bake again. Now it'll flip up, does the slow-mo stuff, and that'll just keep doing the slow-mo now. So we kind of decided sort of how long we want it to go for, so let's say to about there. Go to the general tab again, we've got our timescale, so we control click to set a keyframe, move forward a few frames and set that back to 100. Tick. And again, because it's cached, it won't show yet, so we now clear the cache and rebake it. And now you'll see that that flips up, does the slow, although that does actually seem to have completely stopped. That's a bit weird. Let's just have a look at that. Yeah, for some reason that's gone down to 0 there. I don't know if you know what I just did just then, but I certainly don't. So it was about somewhere around there. 4. Make sure that's set to 4. For some reason that's got us. There we go. Has that done it? know where the keyframe telling it to be 0 came from. Must have missed that. So clear the cache, rebake it, and let's try that. There we go. Boom. Much better. Right, and there you go, that's how I did it. And then to put the text in, literally it was just loaded it up in After Effects, typed it in, and then masked it off as the coin was passing past it. So yeah, that's it. Don't forget the Rate My Funeral site. There's a skateboard animation challenge there based on the tutorial on how to make a dynamic skateboard. It's looking quite fun at the moment, and also obviously there's always stuff going on here, so it'll be wicked to see some feedback on there. And I hope this has been useful to you. Cheers.